This bums me out, but something seems to be going very, very wrong with podcaster Joe Rogan. And the latest is a completely dilapidated rant about measles. Rogan gets the facts wrong, and therefore he gets the conclusion wrong. And one of the things that is a feature or a bug, I would argue, of some of this anti-vax and pseudoscience rhetoric is that if your inputs are bad, your outputs are likely to also be bad. So here is Rogan talking about measles when he was a kid. Rogan was born in, hold on, let me double check. I believe it's 1967. Rogan was born in 1967. That is relevant to our analysis here, okay? So here is Rogan talking about measles and why the vaccine is really no big deal and everybody got measles and everybody's fine, okay? Check it out.
Measles included, speaking of the current thing,
which is
a controversy.
An infection that everyone got when I was a kid. And what happened was you'd get sick for a few days and then you'd be immune for life.
Yep.
Yeah. And they were making it look like everyone's dying from measles. Like, no, if you're dying from measles, you're sick. You're already compromised, which is exactly what happened with COVID, where 90 fucking +% of the people who died had 4+ comorbidities.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Which is why it was such a red pill for me, because I was like literally an ultra marathon runner that was going to the gym like 3 hours a day. I'm like, I need natural immunity. I already have natural immunity. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Now, I don't know who this guy is, but we have proven that going to the gym was not protective. It just was not protective. But I don't even know who this guy is. I don't want to deal with that. Something is really off here about Rogan's measles take. Now, here is the specifics of it. Rogan was born in 1967, and that really matters because the measles vaccine was licensed in 1963. And by 1967, the number of people getting measles was down more than 90%. We have the chart on the screen. And what you see is that at its peak, we had 822,000, 894,000, 763,000 measles cases a year. You go to 1967, 62,000 cases. Measles was well on its way to being eliminated when Rogan was born. When Rogan was 5, we had only 32,000 cases. By the time Rogan was 5 or, maybe 6, 7, 8, right? I don't know when he's thinking of when he was a kid. We had seen a reduction in measles cases of 95%. This is a classic anti-vax thing, which is the memory that, I don't know, when I was a kid, like nobody was really getting measles. Nobody was really getting very sick. I didn't hear about people dying from measles, so it couldn't be that the vaccine is necessary. The reason that Rogan recollects that measles was no big deal when he was 5, 10, 15 years old is because the vaccine came out 4 years before he was born, and it obliterated measles. By the time he was growing up, 95% of the people that would have gotten measles were no longer getting it because of the vaccines, not because measles wasn't serious or it wasn't highly contagious. Now, the other possibility is Rogan confused between measles and chickenpox? I'm just not sure. Chickenpox was really common in the 70s and 80s, and that often was treated really casually. People would do chickenpox parties. You get a kid with chickenpox, you get a bunch of kids together so they all get it, and then they recover, and relatively few major issues. Maybe Rogan's confused between measles and chickenpox. I don't know. I looked and I wasn't able to find any evidence that measles was treated as this harmless childhood rite of passage where you would try to get everybody to get measles to get over it. Before widespread vaccination, it was hospitalizing tens of thousands of Americans every year, and it was killing hundreds annually. Brain swelling, neurological damage, sometimes fatal degenerative stuff would come up years later. And so that's why the framing here is so misleading. When he goes, you were sick for a few days and then immune for life. Of course, infection can provide immunity, but it comes with serious risk. And the vaccine also provides really good immunity without the risk of brain damage, without the risk of death. And that's the whole point. Presenting infection as he does, as this kind of natural low-cost alternative, just ignores why public health moved aggressively to vaccinate. And of course, his recollection ignores that he, as a youngster, was the beneficiary of one of the most successful vaccination campaigns in American history, with cases coming down 95%. The other thing I think is relevant here is that there's a sort of survivor bias, which is like my dad got measles also. We were just talking about it, in fact. And most people who got it did survive. But the ones that didn't survive, many of them didn't live long enough to even have children. So like no one's around to talk about those individuals. And the reminder here is that the R naught, the contagion rate of measles is so high that the reason we vaccinate is because you need a really high level of vaccination to get herd immunity because it is that contagious. Totally incorrect. I don't want to say fabricated. He just seems to be remembering incorrectly. And to the extent that he accurately remembers that measles was not a huge deal when he was a kid, that's because of the vaccine. And maybe he should be grateful for that.